What's up everybody, Subaru WRX fan here for another review. This time I'm going to review the Ford Focus hatchback. Few comments about the exterior. I like the way it looks. I mean, I like this little chrome bit here. It's not excessive, but it's nice. Otherwise, I mean, halogen lamps aren't the best, but the fog lights here with the nice little chrome bits are nice. Side of the car, I mean, it looks good. It's got a nice little shape. Tail lights are nice and big, which is a good safety feature. I mean, the car looks nice and small from the outside. As we'll discuss in a minute, on the inside, it feels really big. Right, so here we are on the inside of the Ford Focus. I recently watched Chris Harris's review of the hot hatchbacks that he did, and he reviewed the Ford Focus ST. This is the same basic car, this just isn't the ST. Unfortunately, I can't get my hands on an ST, but I figured, you know, people that can't afford the ST would still be interested to see if the normal Focus is still a good car, even if you can't afford the ST. So, I mean, the inside, you really get the same interior that you get on the ST. I mean, you still have, you know, this great center console with lots of buttons, but the buttons are pretty well labeled. Everything's pretty logical in here. The auto climate control is really nice and easy to use. This car has sync, you know, Microsoft sync technology, so Bluetooth audio, you know, voice commands, all that kind of stuff works really well in this car. The sync system's an awesome system. The shifter's really nice. I mean, everything feels really good and solid. Nice leather wrapped wheel we have here. The wheel's a little thin, but I mean, this is an economy car, so I'm not looking for, you know, BMW style M wheel. So I mean, this is pretty nice feeling. Lots of nice buttons here. It's a little busy on the steering wheel, more than I would like, but it's not bad. I mean, it doesn't get in the way of your driving. It's very good in that regard. I mean, everything else is logically placed. The only complaint I really have is that the car feels kind of small here on the inside. I mean, I realize we're in an economy car, but still, I mean, there's really not a whole lot of like elbow room. Everything's a little bit tight, and the car feels really big from the inside. So it's kind of strange. It feels big, like, but yet it's small. It's kind of hard to explain. But for example, it feels really long. When you look over to the back, I feel like I'm driving like an estate, like a huge wagon, and it's really just a small hatchback. It's a 5-door hatchback. Other than that, I mean, you know, it's a great view out. There's very good visibility. Windows are big enough that you have good, you know, visibility. You know, it doesn't feel like you're driving a big car when you're driving it around. We'll discuss more about the driving next, though. So what is it like to drive? Let's find out. So it's nice and quiet in here. That's the first thing. It's a nice quiet cabin. This engine is very free revving, so the car feels very eager whenever you're driving it. It's something that you never have to hesitate, like, well, do I have enough power? I mean, this car doesn't have an abundance of power. I mean, you know, it's just a standard little 4-cylinder in this car, but it has enough that it, you know, it feels very eager. The car makes up for its shortcomings, similar to the Subaru Forester I reviewed. I mentioned in that review that, you know, you hit the gas pedal, it's touchy, it gets up and goes. This gas pedal's less touchy, but it still has that very eager feel to it, which is a clever way of disguising the lack of power. The brake pedal is a little touchier than I would prefer, personally. You get on the brake pedal and, I mean, it'll stop you pretty quickly. It's good because that's a safety thing and you want really touchy brakes, but to me, there's a lack of feel because of how touchy it is. Like, it's just way too much brake boost. Okay, so while we're on a back road, let's talk about the steering in this car. So, the car has a really nice steering rack. I was actually pleasantly surprised. I remember in Chris Harris's review, he mentioned that it felt a little rubbery in the ST. I don't know if this is a different steering rack in this car, but I'm assuming it would be, because this car, it doesn't feel very rubbery. It has a good feel to it, but it's not very natural feeling. It has a bit of an artificial feel. I'm pretty sure this is an electric rack in this car, so it's just kind of giving you force feedback similar to a PlayStation wheel would, and so I mean, it's pretty good feeling though. I mean, it has a nice weight to it. Okay, so as you all know, I prefer manual transmissions, and this car is equipped with an automatic, and automatic in this car is okay. It's not bad. I mean, it's quiet. The shifts aren't rough or anything like that, but it gets confused about what gear you should be in. Like some cars tend to do, you know, there's some automatics that I've driven that are this way. This one is one of them. It doesn't quite know. I mean, it tries to guess based on your throttle position as to what gear you want to be in, but it's not always sure. So the gears jump around a lot. Something I don't really like. It's a little less refined than I'd like. It does have little manual buttons here on the gear shift. I can, switch it manually, and it has a sport mode as well. I haven't played around with those a whole lot, but it's something that most people aren't going to use those kind of functions. So for everyday functionality, the automatic transmission in this car should be a little bit smoother. But again, we're in a Ford Focus. I realize that. So for what it is, it does a really good job. I can't complain. The stereo in this car is really impressive, actually. Compared with my BRZ and the Legacy, which both have fairly underpowered stereos, this stereo, I only can have it on maybe a quarter of the way, and it's really loud. It's a very powerful stereo. It sounds really good. Really nice system. It has this nice little screen up here to display your radio information and what the song is that you're currently listening to. And that's not the only screen in the car. This car also has a nice little screen in between the speedometer and the tachometer, which is pretty cool. It tells you if your lights are on. It lets you know your average miles per gallon. It has a few little things on the trip computer, standard functions that you would have, odometer. It tells you your gear position, outside temperature. It has a compass, and then the odometer, of course. And it's a nice little screen. It's color. It's high resolution. It looks really good. Can't really complain about that a whole lot. It's pretty nice. Everything in this interior, Chris Harris said, this would be a great interior to commute in, and I agree. This is a really nice interior. for a Ford Focus, anyone that's familiar with the Ford Focus can look at the previous generation. This car is miles ahead of the previous generation. That car had economy, budget, crap, plasticky interior. It was just awful. The whole car was buzzy. They were loud to ride in, weren't comfortable. The doors were paper thin. Everything in the previous Focus felt cheap, super cheap. This car feels super nice. It's really, I'm very impressed with just how far they've come on the interior alone. This interior is fantastic for the money. Absolutely fantastic. I think you're gonna have a really tough time finding a nicer interior. For example, cars that people would cross shop with this are like the Honda Civic, the Mazda 3, cars like that. The interiors are still very plasticky, very hard. There's not very many hard materials in this car. Everything is even the plastic is painted with metallic paints. Everything's soft, and even the rubber and stuff, everything is very nice and soft feeling. This car feels very plush for, $16,000. It's really impressive, and you don't get this kind of refinement in this category generally. Like I said, you're not going to get this in a Civic, you're not going to get this in a Mazda 3, any kind of those cars, forget it. So this car is refined far beyond those cars, and I think if you're looking for something in this category, this is probably one of your best picks. Bottom line for this car, it drives really nice, interior is beautiful, exterior looks nice enough, ride is really refined. Everything about this car is just one step above the rest. There's small little minor problems here and there, but on the whole, this is one of the best offerings in this segment, and I would definitely recommend this car if you're looking for something like this.